Yo, Shelf Squad, welcome back to a brand new video. Today, we're looking at some brand new cards from Obsidian Flames. Obsidian Flames is literally coming out in less than a month from now, so I thought it was a good time to kind of look at some of these new cards that have been revealed over the past little bit, recap what they do, and see how they're going to impact our metagame. There's actually some pretty good new cards within this set that may or may not impact the popularity of decks like Gardevoir and Lost Box specifically. Before we do get the video, make sure to leave a like on the video if you go on to enjoy and all that good stuff, and leave a comment down below what you think about these new cards.
The Shuffle Squad is proudly sponsored by Ultimate Guard, PTCGL Store, and Atlas TCG. Check out the description below for discount codes and affiliate links to support the squad. Now it's time for the video.
Alright, let's take a look here at some of the cards from Obsidian Flames, including some of the big EX in the set. As you can see on the packer, we got Dragonite, Revroom, Tyranitar, and Charizard. We're going to take a look at all those EXs today, and of course, Charizard being the big one. There's some pretty good new EXs in this set that are definitely looking to be pretty good, especially the new Charizard. So, starting things off, we have the new Ice Q EX. Of course, being a Terra Pokemon does mean that it cannot be damaged on the bench, but it does have the attack Scalding Block. For 3 water, it does 160 damage, and then you discard an energy from this Pokemon. The fighting Pokemon can attack during your opponent's next turn. So, you could put this within a Baxcalibur deck, as you can use Baxcalibur to power up Ice Q. Unfortunately, I don't know how good Ice Q really is. I don't think it's great. Being able to do 160 with a fire Pokemon isn't bad, but unfortunately right now, there's no Pokemon in the format that is really weak to fire that's worth hitting for. I mean, I guess technically there's Dialga V-Star, but that doesn't, like, it's not that popular, right? So I don't think this type is relevant to play in a Shampoo deck, and you do have the ability to discard energy and then make it so that if any Pokemon can't attack, but we are in a meta right now where you got Switch, you got manually retreating, and even cards like Penny exist. So I'm not sure that Ice Q will see much play, unfortunately. I don't think it's very good. It might be not the worst EX within Obsidian Flames, but definitely down there for sure. It's not very playable. Next up, we have Tyranitar EX. One of the big EXs of the set. This card is a Lightning-type Pokemon, which does have relevancy. Lightning's not a bad type right now. And it's got the Terra ability and 2 attacks that provide fighting energy. So while it's a Lightning Pokemon, it needs fighting energy to attack. It's got Mountain Crumble for 1 fighting, does 120. You discard the top 2 cards of your deck. And then Toll Rampage does 150 damage, and if any of your bench Pokemon have any damage counters on them, this attack does 100 more damage. So you can do 250 damage if anything on the bench has damage on them. Now, Tyranitar can, of course, be played with Gapejaw Bog and Tyranitar, or Gengar, sorry, which can put damage on your bench for you, which is pretty solid. And, of course, it is very bulky. 340 HP is a lot, and Tyranitar also is a Lightning Pokemon, which means that you are going to, be able to hit stuff for weakness like Lugia V-Star and Palkia V-Star, and another new Pokemon that we're going to talk about very soon within Obsidian Flames that may or may not see play. While I don't think Tyranitar is, like, the best EX ever printed, it's definitely not terrible, and it's fairly solid. It is using fighting energy isn't bad. There's some decent Pokemon you could play this with. I don't think you can use Koraidon with Tyranitar, which would have been pretty sick. But again, it's a very bulky and strong attacker, which is really all you need right now within the format. Next up, we have a new Cleffa here, which I did want to mention. It does have the attack Grasping Draw, which for no energy, draws cards until you have 7 in your hand, which is pretty cool. The problem is that, while this card is a nice throwback to, like, the Heart Gold Soul Silver era, I don't think that this Cleffa will see much play, because it is very, very easy bait for Sableye, right? Sableye will be able to knock out Cleffa pretty easily, so unfortunately, I don't think Cleffa is very good. I did want to mention it, though, because maybe when the format slows down and rotation happens, then maybe Cleffa will see some play. Next up is Charizard EX. This could very well be the best EX within the set, with the ability Infernal Control. When you play this card from your hand to evolve a Pokemon during your turn, you may search your deck for up to 3 basic fire energy and attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like. Pretty strong ability. Obviously, energy acceleration is always a good thing, and Charizard's attack is also pretty good. It's not just going to sit on the bench after using the ability. It's got the attack of Burning Darkness that for 2 fire does 180 damage and then does 30 more damage for each prize card your opponent has taken. So you can really rack up the damage pretty quickly with the Charizard EX, allowing you to hit pretty high numbers in the late game. The big thing about Charizard is, of course, it's a Tark-type Pokemon, meaning that you're going to be hitting Gardevoir and Mew VMAX for weakness, which is really relevant. Having a good typing definitely makes Charizard strong. It's also very bulky. 330 HP is quite a bit of HP to have in the game. Now, the ability itself is obviously good. You can play Charizard by itself, or you can play with other Pokemon. You can play like Entei or Delphox V, or whatever other fire Pokemon you want to maybe play Charizard with, you definitely could. There's also the Pokemon Go Charizard in the format that you can also play this with if you want, since you can use Pogo Charizard's ability to let Charizard EX attack for a single fire. But yeah, so Charizard is definitely looking to be potentially the best EX in the set, at the very least the best attacking EX in the set, more than anything else, and definitely is going to be the main card you want to pick up. I know it's Charizard, it might be expensive. I know there's a gold version of it, and then there's the other version, Illustrator Rare version, which they're going to be expensive, but the base Charizard hopefully won't be too expensive. Maybe they'll make Charizard a League Battle Dex down the road, because this is definitely the most playable EX in the set. We got a new Scizor here, which is pretty cool. It's got the attack Punish Scizor that for 1 metal does 10 damage, 50 more damage for each of your opponent's Pokemon to play with an ability. Wanted to note this Scizor, it is very similar to Flapple, which does something very similar, and of course being a metal Pokemon allows you to hit Xianpao for weakness, so could be a decent attacker within Zorobox, could be its own attacker in some kind of like Stage 1 box deck. Got a new Mawile here, a Special Eater. It is one of the pre-release promos with the ability, when you place Pokemon from your hand on your bench, you may discard a Special Energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. Really strong ability. Removing Special Energy is good. You get rid of V-Guard Energy, Double Turbo, Fusion Energy. Well, actually, no, you can't get rid of Fusion Energy, but you can get rid of Double Turbo and V-Guard, which ain't bad. So, we've seen this before on a Giratina card from Unified Minds. This card did need Scoop Up Net, though, in my opinion, to be somewhat playable. Without Scoop Up Net, I don't think Mawile is, like, broken, but definitely still not a bad card. You got Poppy, a new supporter. Move up to 2 energy from one of your Pokemon to another one of your Pokemon. Not a bad card. Being able to move energy around on your side of the board ain't bad. It's not energy acceleration, but it technically does conserve energy if you're moving energy off of a heavily damaged Pokemon to a fresh Pokemon. It's not a bad supporter. And then we got Letter of Encouragement here. You can only play this card if your Pokemon were knocked out during your opponent's last turn. So much like Raihan, it allows you to search your deck for up to 3 basic energy, reveal them, and put them in your hand. This could be a great card to play within Xianpao, right? You know, you start with Frigibacks, they knock out your Frigibacks, you promote the Xianpao, you go Rare Candy Excalibur, and then you play Letter of Encouragement off of an Irida. You can get 3 waters out of your deck. I definitely think Xianpao is going to play at least 1 to 2 of these, because it's a very strong card to play in that deck. Being able to get 3 energy out of your deck is pretty good. Other decks could play this, maybe even Grafaiai could play this, Smeargle could play this, like any of those like energy hand decks could play this. Also could be pretty good with Galarian Moltres, where you can put energy in your hand and then bench Moltres and put energy onto it. So pretty strong card in that regards too. Definitely keep your eye on that. Next up, we have a couple more new EXs here. We got the new Dedenne EX, or Greedent EX, sorry, not Dedenne, Greedent EX, I mean. Now, Greedent is also a Terra Pokemon. It does have the attack Get Greedy, where you can look at the top 3 cards of your deck, and you can put any of those cards in your hand or discard them and then draw 3 other cards. So you can actually see 6 cards in total with Greedent's first attack. Then the second attack, Foolish Rolling for 3 colorless, does 210 damage. During your next turn, this Pokemon can't use the attack again. So, unfortunately, this Greedent is not very good. Like I said earlier, with Ice Cube potentially being the worst Obsidian Flame EX, I think that Greedent takes the crown for maybe the worst EX within Obsidian Flames. Greedent just doesn't do anything special. The first attack is definitely cool, don't get me wrong, and it could be good in like a control deck where you can kind of get your deck down super low really quickly, because I mean, seeing 6 cards is kind of busted. The problem is that Greedent doesn't do much else other than the first attack, where the second attack, Foolish Rolling, is going to be kind of the main trait that you might want to look into, and it just kind of sucks. 210 damage is nothing to write home about, and it's nothing too crazy. You're not hitting anything for weakness. So I think this is going to be the first mid-greeting card we've gotten. Definitely not very playable. I think it is definitely worse than Ice Cube. We got this new Dragonite. Now, as you can see, Dragonite is on the starter, or the pack art for the set, and it does have the attack, Wing Attack. 1 colorless energy does 70 damage, which isn't bad. 1 for 70 is okay for setting up damage. You're knocking out other basics like Ralts and Mew and stuff, which is actually pretty good, and Frigibacks also is another basic, and Comfey, so you're knocking out quite a few basics with that first attack. And the second attack, it's a little risky, but has very high payout. So for 1 water or lightning does 140 damage. You flip a coin if heads. This attack does 140 more damage, and if tails, this Pokemon can't attack during your next turn. Now, there are a few things to note about Dragonite here. Dragonite is a 330 HP Pokemon. So it's very tanky. So even if you're not knocking stuff out with Meteor Bash, you are at least two-shotting most things anyways. And if you are knocking stuff out, like if you just so happen to flip heads, Dragonite is really strong. Now, unfortunately, we do not have Glimwood, Tangle, or Victini in the format to allow us to reflip the effective Meteor Break. If we had something like that in the format, I definitely think Dragonite would be a lot more playable. I do think we'll get something like that down the road. Like I'm pretty sure we'll probably see like a coin flip, reflip card, whether it be a stadium or a basic again. I think at some point we'll see something like that come back 100%. In my opinion, without a doubt, we'll see it. And that could make Dragonite better. For now, Dragonite is kind of mid. It's not terrible though. Like people look at it like this card sucks. It's bad. I don't think it's bad at all. Like I actually think Dragonite is at least playable. While I don't think it's going to be a meta deck or anything, I do think that it is like somewhat playable and can at least get the job done in some scenarios. And again, if you're lucky, you flip heads on Meteor Break, you're knocking something out, it's going to be pretty insane. So I don't think Dragonite is the best card ever, but I definitely don't think that it is terrible. And if at any point we ever get a coin flip, reflip effect back in the format, I think Dragonite will immediately become a lot better. We got new Drampa here with Outrage, doing 60 damage, and then 10 more damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon. So if you put 11 damage on it, it's doing 170 damage for 2 energy. Not terrible. Again, it's a decent attack at the best. It's maybe good for like GLC more than anything else. I don't think Drampa is very playable otherwise. And we got some other new cards to take a look at here. We got quite a few new cards here to take a look at from Obsidian Flames are revealed. We got this new Toxtricity here with Mix Loud. For a Lightning and a Colorless, does 50 damage, and this attack does 30 more damage for each different type of Pokemon on your bench, which is pretty strong because it's very similar to Sylveon VMAX, where it does the exact same thing, but 100 plus 30, where this attack doesn't do as much damage, but it is on a basic Pokemon, and it's a Lightning Pokemon, so you could play this with Electric Generator to build it up. And you can play this with like a lot of different Pokemon. Being able to put a different type on your bench means you can really mix up the variety of types you can play and what Pokemon you put into play, which kind of makes this Toxtricity kind of sick. So there's definitely a lot of cool ways you could play this card, for sure. Another new card here is Glimmora EX. This card is really powerful with the ability Dust Field. As long as this Pokemon is in the active spot, your opponent can't have more than 3 benched Pokemon. If they have 4 more benched Pokemon, they discard benched Pokemon until they have 3 Pokemon on their bench. If more than one effect changes the number of bench Pokemon, use that smaller number. So this ability is really strong. It's very similar, of course, to Parallel City and Avery, where you force your opponent to remove bench Pokemon. Now, Glimmora does have to be in the active, which obviously makes it not like as powerful as like a Parallel City, where it just has to be in play. But the ability is still really good. Obviously, we're in a meta right now where most decks like to fill their bench up. I mean, Gardevoir, Lost Box, Mew are all decks that fill their bench up, and this can immediately just punish them for filling their bench up. Now, Glimmora can, of course, be used with, like, switches and cross-switchers, so you can put Glimmora into play, and then you can, like, switch into the active spot or promote it for turn when something gets knocked out. You promote it for your turn, your opponent discards Pokemon, and then you just switch Glimmora back to the bench. That could be how you play it. Its attack is okay. Poisonous Gem does 140, and then poisons the opponent's active. For 2 energy, that's not terrible. You can, of course, play this with Koraidon if you want to build it up efficiently. And you can play Radiant Sneasler to do more damage with Poisonous Gem. So I don't think Glimmora is terrible by any means in terms of attacking. What can it be its own deck by itself? Maybe with like Crushing Hammer and stuff, maybe, but I don't think so. I don't think the ability is good enough to play by itself. Definitely a very annoying ability, though, and we'll have to see how much play this Glimmora sees, because I do think that this Glimmora has potential to be, you know, pretty powerful. Again, maybe more or less as like a Pokemon that you pivot around with switches to kind of utilize the ability to its fullest extent. I definitely could see some kind of deck doing that. Also, to note, there's an Ascension limit in the format, so you have a way to get this into play like on the first turn of the game, which is pretty nasty. New Togekiss here is kind of cool. Once during turn before you attack, you may draw cards until you have 8 in your hand. So it's after you attack, right? So you do your attack and then you draw 8 cards. Now, this card could have been good. However, Iono does exist, and Iono is very popular, and it's continue to be popular. So I'm not sure that Togekiss is very good, unfortunately. If it drew at the beginning of your turn, it would have been a lot better, but that would have been pretty broken, to be honest. So Togekiss definitely has an interesting ability. I'm not sure it will see play because, you know, Iono does punish it, but maybe we're going to be in a time where, like, you force your opponent to Iono them and they can't do any other supporters, so who knows. Next up, we got another EX, another Packard EX, and that is a Revroom EX here. 280 HP, Stage 1 Pokemon, with a pretty cool ability, Tune-Up. If this Pokemon may have up to 4 Pokemon tools on it, and then if it loses the ability, like if you get pathed, you can only put 1 tool on instead. So being able to put 4 tools on Revroom is kind of insane. There's a ton of tools to choose from, like Choice Belt, Box of Disaster, Leftovers, there's a ton of tools to choose from for Revroom, and having 4 on them is kind of sick. Very similar to, of course, Honchkrow V, which has the exact same ability, but Honchkrow's on a basic. Revroom does have a decent attack. Wild Drift does 170 damage, and then during your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon takes 30 less damage. So, effectively, Wild Drift would give it 200 or 310 HP, right, with that minus 30 reduction. So, kind of a cool card. I think Revroom is semi-playable. It is a metal Pokemon, so you do have to play it with Magnezone if you want to build it up efficiently, but I definitely think that Revroom is playable. You know, you can play it with a bunch of other Revrooms. You can play like EXP share to conserve the energy. There's Shopping Center in the format that you can use to move tools around. So I think Revroom is playable. There's even a new stadium that lets you search a tool out of your deck. So definitely, I think Revroom will see play as a fun meme deck. Definitely cool. And again, there's a lot of tools to choose from. And as we get more tools that come out over time, Revroom will get a lot stronger for sure. Next up is Pidgeot EX. Now, Charizard, I think, is the best EX in the set, at least for the attack itself. Pidgeot might be the best EX in the set for its ability. So Pidgeot is very reminiscent of an old Pidgeot we used to have from back in the day. It has the ability Quick Search. Once during your turn, you may search your deck for a card and put it into your hand and then shuffle your deck. You can't use more than 1 Quick Search a turn. So you can't have like 3 Pidgeot and play do triple Quick Search. But being able to get any 1 card out of your deck every single turn is very powerful. This obviously allows you to search for supporters, energies, Pokemon, whatever you need, Pidgeot can grab. And that is really strong. Now, yes, Pidgeot is a Stage 2 Pokemon, but if you're already playing this, you know, in a deck with Stage 2s, you can maybe play a 1/1 line if there's already rare candy in your deck, or you can just afford to play Pidgeot. Now, Pidgeot does have 280 HP, so it isn't like the easiest Pokemon to KO, unless you're playing against an easy one-hit KO deck. Pidgeot is not the hardest Pokemon to KO. You gotta remember, though, like, Pidgeot, well, definitely it might have a target on its head if you have it in play. You gotta remember, if your active Pokemon is a threat, your opponent will have to deal with your active before they deal with Pidgeot. So you always gotta keep that in mind when playing a support Pokemon like Pidgeot. It's like when you're playing against Gardevoir EX, and they have an active Gardevoir Shining Arcana with 9 energy on it, and it's one-shot anything in your active, and you want to boss KO the EX, well, it's like, but I got to knock out this Gardevoir, because if I don't KO the active Gardevoir, I'm just going to lose again. So that's kind of the thought you have to keep in mind with Pidgeot. It's a very good support Pokemon that, as long as your active Pokemon is scary enough, they're not going to go after the Pidgeot as much. Now, Pidgeot is weak to Lightning, which does mean that you can hit it for weakness with something like the new Tyranitar EX. But again, I think this ability is just so strong that it will probably see play. Maybe not right away. There's a debate that the format might be too fast for Pidgeot to be relevant, but there's also a debate that maybe Pidgeot is what the format needed. So I think Pidgeot will see some play, in my opinion. I think it's good enough to see play. I know a lot of people are like 50-50 on it, like whether or not this card is good or not, they're 50-50, but I am leaning towards, I think this card is legit good. It could see play in all kinds of decks. I think it could see play in Arceus decks. Gardevoir can play it. Lost Box could even play this, believe it or not. Like, Lost Box Pidgeot could be a legit deck, because Pidgeot is super powerful in Lost Box. Imagine being able to just search out Mirage Gate, or the Energy, or Chorus. Just saying. So I think Pidgeot is a legit good card. New Flamigo with Synchro Feather does 60 damage, and then if you have any Flamigo on your bench, you do 60 more damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Really cool card. Unfortunately, Manaphy does hold it back, but if Manaphy rotates, this card legit could be like a decent attacker for like a one-prize meme deck. And of course, there's another Flamigo in the format that lets you search Flamigos out of your deck. So definitely do not write Flamigo off just yet. Another really strong card is Pokemon League Headquarters. This could be the anti-Lost Box card we needed. This is very good against Sableye specifically, but other than that, it's also good against like other Pokemon in the Lost Zone engine deck. But the big one is Sableye. The attack cost of each basic Pokemon in play is 1 colorless more. So effectively, what this does, if this is in play against Lost Box, Sableye needs 2 energy to do Lost Mine, Kyogre needs 4 energy, Dragonite needs 4, Raikou needs 3, Greninja needs 4. Actually, I think Cramorant is the only thing that this card does not work against. I'm pretty sure Cramorant still works with League Headquarters in play. But being able to shut off Sableye is obviously the main selling point of this card. It forces them to have a Mirage Gate to power the Sableye up, which can be hard if you spam Iono against them. You can just Iono your opponent to a low hand size, play down the League Headquarters, make it very hard for them. This could very much see play in Gardevoir. This is probably the best Stadium Gardevoir can now play, because not only does it counter Sableye, but it's also just really good in Gardevoir, because Gardevoir doesn't really care about League Headquarters, because Gardevoir already has basic Pokemon that just need a ton of energy. Like, Zacian V does not care about League Headquarters when the point of Zacian is to just put, like, 9 energy on it anyways. Cresselia, maybe, but, like, again, I think this card is super powerful within Gardevoir. I think it's just a very strong card in general, very good against Lost Box, and I'm glad that Pokemon are printing these, like, soft Lost Box counters. Like, there's no one, it's not like Drapion or Spiritomb where, like, it's so obviously supposed to counter Mew, whereas this stadium isn't supposed to directly counter Lost Box, but Lost Box just so happens to get caught in the crossfire of how strong this card is. So I'm glad this card is coming out to nerf Lost Box a little bit, because I think Lost Box just does need some kind of counters, because I don't think that, like, Espeon and Toedscruel are enough to stop the deck. The deck is just out of control, and I'm glad this card does exist. We got Ortega here. Look at your opponent's hand, choose one card you find there, put it at the bottom of your opponent's deck, and then your opponent may draw a card. I don't think it's very good. If you got to choose if your opponent drew a card or not, this would be a lot better, but because your opponent gets to choose themselves to draw a card, it's just not very good. And yeah, you can take a card away, but like better cards like Sydney exist, but I think Sydney is just infinitely better than this card. Now, we got Gita. Now, I think Gita's legit a pretty solid supporter card. Now, until the end of your turn, when you play this card, none of your Pokemon can attack. However, what you get to do is you can search your deck for up to 2 basic energy cards and attach them to one of your Pokemon. So this could be good in any setup deck. Something like Tinglu could play this, any basic V Pokemon could play this, any VMAX deck, any EX deck could play this. Because you could play Gita with like a, slow active Pokemon, something like Diancie to prevent your opponent from bossing you, or something like Klefki to slow your opponent down. And those are all ways I think Gita could see play. I think this card is pretty legit and is a decent supporter. I think this will see play. Whether, be right away or not is a, kind of deciding factor of whether or not this will be good. But I think this card is good enough that it will see play at some point. It's a very strong supporter card with a really cool effect. And there you have it. Those are a lot of the new Obsidian Flame cards. Again, the big one, of course, I think Charizard and Pidgeot are probably, until we maybe see the rest of the set revealed, are going to be the 2 best EXs, while other things like Revroom, Tyranitar, Glimora, they're all pretty solid cards too. But I do think that Charizard and Pidgeot are the 2 standouts. Charizard is most likely going to become a meta deck when it comes out. It's good enough to be a top-tier meta deck, for sure, in my opinion. Like, being a dark Pokemon does a lot of damage, has a really good ability. Weak to grass isn't bad. I mean, there's not that many grass Pokemon in the format right now that are popular. That could change if Charizard becomes popular. Something like Arceus is going to start playing, like, I don't know, Shaman V-Star all of a sudden. But I think Charizard is definitely a legit card, and without a doubt will make an impact on the game. And I think Pidgeot EX is pretty good too. So there you have, that is some of the new Obsidian Flame reveals. Again, the set's coming out in less than a month. Pre-releases are just a few weeks away, which I am super excited for. I cannot wait to start diving into this set and looking at all the new cards, playing all the new decks. The set is actually releasing the same weekend as the World Championship, so some people might not be able to play the set right away because they can go to pre-releases, but the new set, again, doesn't drop until Worlds. So, like, a lot of people are going to be at Worlds and won't be able to experience new cards unless, well, they can play live on their phone, I guess, while they're down there. But you get my point. Like, it's not the same thing, right? So, definitely looking forward to seeing what happens with Obsidian Flames, how it will impact the meta. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think about Obsidian Flames? How do you think this set will impact the meta? What do you think is the best EX in the set? Is it Charizard, Pidgeot? Do you think another EX maybe deserves to be crowned at the best EX in the set? I would love to hear it down below. And thanks for watching here on the Shuffle Squad. If you enjoyed, again, leave a like and subscribe down below if you're new to our channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all in another video here. Bye-bye.
The Shuffle Squad proudly uses Ultimate Guard products. We think that their Cortex and Katana sleeves are absolutely fantastic with to play in tournaments. And of course, they have a wide range of products that are simply fantastic. Whether you're looking for a new binder, playmat, or if you're looking for one of the Sidewinder deck boxes you might have seen one of us play with, be sure to check it out. They have their EU web shop, and it's available on Amazon elsewhere. Head on over to atlascollectibles.com and support the Shuffle Squad by buying some of their products. You could get a discount of 6% off of Pokemon TCG booster boxes, so you could grab from a large selection of sealed product, save 6%, or you could save 12% by using code TSS12 on all of their Pokemon TCG singles. Atlas has a large selection and ships worldwide, so be sure to pick up your Pokemon products there. Use code TSS5 at ptcgostore.com to save 5% off your order of Pokemon TCG live codes. They have a great selection of codes available from all different sets at competitive rates. They get instantly emailed to you, so you can use them right away to get all the cards you need to build that next great deck creation. Again, use code TSS5 to save 5% off at ptcgostore.com. Have you ever wanted more content from the Shuffle Squad? Well, we do have a Patreon account. You can support the Shuffle Squad directly by pledging towards our content, whether you want to get access to a special discount code from one of our sponsors, or if you want to have access to all of our deck lists exclusive Pokemon TCG articles, and more. You can even chat with the Shuffle Squad in Discord. So this really does help support the Shuffle Squad getting to more events, and we do have some amazing articles for you to learn more about. Be sure to sign up to play in the Shuffle Squad's late night events. They happen every single Tuesday night at 12 p.m. Eastern and 7 p.m. Eastern. We have one that's geared towards more of an EU time zone and an NA time zone, but anyone's welcome to play. There's an opportunity to win a trip to Japan for the World Championships, so by all means, feel free to participate in these events for free. You could check out any of the links that we have available in the description. Get coaching from the Shuffle Squad on Metafy. If you want to improve your game on Pokemon TCG, you can absolutely test with the best. We have some of the best players in the world on our team. So whether you want to get coaching from Calvin or our current EUIC champion, Alex Szymanski, or anyone else that's available on Metafy from the Shuffle Squad, pick up some coaching today, become the best player you can be. Thank you so much for supporting the Shuffle Squad by watching this video. It would mean the world to us if you'd like this video, subscribe to the channel, and maybe even leave a comment. You can also click on this other video from the Shuffle Squad to continuously watch and support us. If you haven't got a chance, check out the description to learn more about our sponsors, and that could also help support the Shuffle Squad. Thanks so much for watching. Have yourself a great one.